Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, Elle. We are super stoked to have you on.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, especially talking about my favorite subject, getting people on their debt-free journey.
Yes.
Getting on the journey, being on the journey, wrapping up the journey.
Yeah,
Starting a
because
new
it's the
journey. It's all
options.
good.
There's so many things. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like if you can do that, if you could, take care of that high interest debt and get that out of the way, there's so many opportunities that open up. It's like a load off your shoulders.
Yeah. And there's so many ways to do it too. Like we talk about getting on the journey, and, being on the journey, but staying on and like making the habit changes on that journey that last far beyond paying off debt. We don't typically focus as much on those. And so I feel like your story really offers habits that can be used long after paying off debt too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like you have to appreciate the season of life you're in, whether that's what's going on with your family, but also personally with your financial goals. There's times when you're going to have to put the pedal to the metal and knock out that high interest debt. But then when we're talking about low interest student loans, then there's a little more wiggle room. How aggressive, depending on what your, holistic goals are, do you want to be with those debts?
So much freedom and permission in it. I love it.
Yes.
And we all, Jen and I, our listeners are suckers for just a good debt-free story. So we are so looking forward to getting into that. But then we also love all of the tips and other ways people approach finances just to help us look at it from all aspects and facets. So for so many reasons, we are just thrilled to have you today. And I'm wondering if we can just start with the nitty gritty, the who, what, why, when, how of your debt. What was it? How much? And what was the catalyst for you for deciding I'm going to get out of debt?
All right. So I'll let you know just straight off the bat. I had the trifecta of debt. I had the credit cards, I had the car loan and the student loan. And the catalyst was a conversation with my then fiance, now husband. When we got engaged, we had, now I realize how awkward it was. But at that time, we got engaged. We were in college. So we're both the typical broke college kids. I mean, we knew all the happy hour specials, the 50-cent tacos, the half off drinks everywhere.
Love it.
And we did that. So we thought this is going to be an easy conversation. And we had talked to friends who were happily married, years ahead of us. And they kept saying, have you talked about the money? And I thought, all right, we'll do that. So we set a date like, thinking this was going to be a quick thing. And we discovered very quickly how different we approached our finances and what was going on with our debts. So on my side, like I mentioned, I had those three types of debts. Altogether was over $30,000. Think it was like 33 in the end, $33,000. And my husband had one debt. It was one semester's of student loans, and he was going to pay it off after the 6-month grace period. So he was completely on a cash system, like no credit cards. Even to this day, he doesn't have a credit card to his name. That's just,
Wow.
different, right?
Good for him for only having one semester's worth of student loan debt.
I mean,
He was
yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
right.
And it was not that we're old, but it was different then. We stayed in state and we really had the support of our family, which we're grateful for, that helps lower some of the expenses, scholarships, and we hustled like crazy for scholarships. But even on my side, I had about 20,000 was the actual student loans. So that was the catalyst, was we need to get this done. And so I immediately set a goal to pay off at least the credit cards by the time we got married. So that was less than a year. I had to get that knocked out. I felt like maybe it's the competitive side of me. I was like, oh, no, I don't want to be that person. So I'm going to get this knocked out. And that's how, I started discovering personal finance blogs. And at that time, there were only like single guys that were talking about it, which, it's great to get those tips. But then I started journaling it, and that kind of, runwayed me into being a personal finance author and writer.
Amazing. Was your fiance at the time, I mean husband now, was he a motivating factor for you when you kind of realized, oh, he's not bringing as much debt to the table as I am? Like that competitive side, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was interesting because, again, it's two people coming together, and we had different financial situations. So I was raised by a single mom, and she wasn't heavy into debt, but it was, at times where she would put something on the credit card, pay it back at a certain point. But it was, if you could afford it, you were okay. And he came from a family where they had a family business. And so they were more conservative because they had employees that, were relying on them. And so it was a different mindset. But I will say on my side, I was doing a little bit of everything. So yes, I had debt, but I also started investing. One of my first jobs while in college, they offered that opportunity and I took it. And yes, it was small, but it was something that I was contributing towards. And I was at that time earning more money than him. He had an internship and then eventually got a job right out of college. But I was working part-time at a doctor's office, making decent money, but more than him. So we just came from two different financial backgrounds and situations. But yeah, that competitive side, I was like, no. I gotta change this. And it's funny, I have a podcast. I didn't realize until years later when I interviewed him about it, because he was so calm while we did that talk. And he was like, I didn't know you had that debt. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? But he said he appreciated that I was open about it. And it wasn't like it was gambling debt or, something that was a red flag. It was mostly student loans. But that was an eye opener for him as well.
Yeah, that's similar to our story. Because I had more debt than we waited till we were engaged to have the talk.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my then fiance, now husband, knew how much debt I had, but I had over 50,000 between student loans and a car. And he was bringing in like just 24, and he was like committed. He was going to pay it off as soon as the grace period was up. He was going to pay it off. And I was like, I don't know. I think I want to live my life. But yeah, I mean, very quickly, obviously, I changed my story. But yeah, that was super, super similar story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I had all the student loans.
Yeah, you did too? Yeah.
Yes. Oh boy. Are we starting a club?
Yes.
But now look at us,
Join our club.
Debt free. It's awesome. It's great on this side.
Yes, it is.
It stands out to me, Elle, just the transition period and how that allowed for room for reflection if we let it. I think sometimes we can blow past some of those milestones and I don't really want to look at that. It's not necessary. This is a high point in my life. I don't want to talk about ho-hum things. But allowing some of those milestones, transition, pivotal points to be that reflective time to look at, is there anything that I want to shift? Are we both good with this? How do we readjust and realign? So there's definitely a piece in there that I think we can all take with us of how can we look at these things at these different markers throughout life and allow them to make room for growth and change and a little bit of competition maybe.
Yeah, especially, in my situation, it was my fiance, but friends, if in your circle of friends, you can have these conversations, and it is eye-opening because we approach money so differently and how we look at debts. I have friends that are definitely where my husband was years ago, where it's like, oh no, I don't even mess with that. That's just too much trouble. And others who are in the same boat as myself. So, having these conversations about how we feel about money and how we handle about money, I know feels awkward at first, but it's been eye-opening. And, I have conversations with my friends. Probably I'm a little more engaged since this is what I do. Mm-hmm. But, we always appreciate bouncing ideas off of each other too.
Yeah, and it gives people permission to be different with their money because some people want to be different, but they think, oh, this is the way everyone is. It's impossible to be different. But when we have those conversations with our friends and maybe family, but definitely friends, and for sure, if you are dating somebody seriously, maybe have the conversation before you get engaged. But we give people permission to be different, to be who they want to become if that's is something they've been waiting for. So it's not just beneficial for us, it can be beneficial for the other people as well. So.
Yeah, especially with paying off your debt. There's so many different ways you can approach it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's the, not mentioning names, the gazelle intense. And I feel like there's a time and a season for that. But sometimes depending on, what are your career goals, what's going on with the family, and what type of debt you're dealing with, you might choose a different route.
Yeah, you don't have to be intense like intense animals the whole time or at all
Mhm.
in order
Yeah,
to pay
it
off your debt.
doesn't last for long. I just learned recently lions sleep about 20 hours a day.
You did learn that
That's
recently.
as much as sloths sleep.
But they're productive in the
They're
uptime.
productive
four
in those
hours a
4
day?
hours, but they
How they get that
sleep as
reputation.
much as sloths. This blew my mind. I'm a changed woman now.
She really is. She really does. So speaking of being productive in the 4 hours a day that you are awake, if that is you. So like for you, Elle, what made the most significant impact when it came to paying off your debt?
I mean, there's so many different things. In our situation, with the credit card, the next one was taking care of the car loan. I had gotten a bad car loan. So I will tell you this. I got a car loan because I felt like I deserved it. I worked hard. I was doing school full time, working, volunteering, taking care of my grandma. I was like, I need a reliable car. The interest rate was ridiculous, double digits. And I needed a co-signer, which was like the sign you should not get the car loan. So to give you an idea of why I felt like this debt was definitely has to go ASAP, we talked about it. And for us, we decided that we were going to shift how we approached our finances, and we were going to live off of one income and then use the second one towards our goals. And there were two reasons for that. One was the debt itself, but then two, again, what's the real life situation you're going through? I had gotten a great paying internship, which is rare, but I didn't know when it was going to end, if it was going to continue beyond the semester. Thankfully, it did. So we wanted to make sure, could we cover our expenses if that internship ended at the end of the semester, or, maybe the next one. And I have to say, looking back, that was the biggest change that we made that made a huge difference. It forced us to get creative with our expenses, like where are we going to live? We actually found this adorable, I say adorable now. Our friends are like, this had no amenities, but get this. We were in Norfolk, Virginia. We were across the street from the Chesapeake Bay. It was a 1 bedroom, a little shabby, but we literally could walk to the beach, just cross the street and be at the beach. And that's really what we needed and wanted. We wanted that low key vibe, and it kept our expenses low instead of being maybe closer to downtown where they had a ton of restaurants. Again, could be a ton of temptation. So you got to look at the situation from your perspective. That was a huge help. But even if you're not married, I would say, again, looking at the income streams, you could have a 9 to 5 that you keep all your necessary and essential expenses. But if you pursue side hustles like I did at the time at various times off and on, that could be dedicated towards your financial goals, whether, it's paying off debt or saving up for something that you really, really want.
Yeah, I appreciate the ways that the strategy can be shifted to accommodate for people in different situations. And that's just it. It's creativity. It's looking at where is their money coming in? Where's there room to make more? How can we decrease expenses? And how can we really strategize where that money is going?
Yeah. I mean, we used a similar I don't think we even said out right, like, oh, we're going to live on one income and use the other to pay off debt. That's kind of just how it happened. But it served us so well, especially when we bought our house, because we were still in this mindset. So while we both used our like income to, qualify, we only used the one income to decide how much we wanted to spend. So we are still in this living on one income mindset. And it's how, like, even after paying off debt, I was able, like, when I lost my job, I was able to just not get another and to just do like freelance writing full time. And to be able to like build that up into another full-time income, and like how we don't worry about paying for daycare now because all of our expenses are on one income. So I could, use mine to pay for daycare if I wanted to, but we still live on one income. And so it's just gives you so many possibilities so far after paying off debt. And I love that it's not just reserved. It's obviously easier when you have like a full-time second income.
Yeah.
But you can use it in a one-person household and just on a smaller scale with a side hustle. It's definitely a cool like challenge every month to see, okay, how much can I put towards my debt? I'm only going to put what I can make in my side hustle. And it does motivate you like that competitive side to see if you can do more, or like how to alter your income to get there faster.
Yeah, like there's a lot of similarities between you and my story. But yeah, having a purpose for your money, and especially like side hustles, I love that because it felt great. One of the side hustles I did was, again, I try to balance not just making money, but enjoying it, was working at a local amphitheater. So I could go and, listen to the concert and the music, and I worked with the food department. And it was great because the manager would let us come in a little bit early, sound check, so your favorite bands, as long as you weren't being a creeper, lingering a little too long.
That's the rule. Don't be a creeper. You're so far in life. Don't be a creeper.
You'll have so many wins that way. So, it was a way for me to, instead of paying money for a concert ticket, I got to see a little bit behind the scenes and earn some extra cash on the side. So, being creative with side hustles as well. And then at the end of the night, I had an extra, $100 or whatever with tips. That's going towards, my goal, knocking out that car loan. It felt like a double win.
We're both really inspired, I think, with this. And well, I think too, something that I want to highlight with what you're saying is it sounds like a shift from what you did for your 9-to-5 job. It was something that is enjoyable, but also brings in money. And what a great combo. What a win-win. Those are the types of scenarios that, man, if we can get them with a side hustle, fantastic, because then it's not going to feel like we're working ourselves to the bone. If we get to exercise a different aspect of our personhood, get to engage with new people, or get to see free concerts and be a part of people's after work life, but yet being paid. So I love all of the thinking outside of the box things that you're describing, and some of the transitions that you made in the midst of your transition into marriage. And I'm curious what you would describe as some of the biggest impact ones. I know you talked about your housing situation. I'm curious if there's any others, and what was most helpful to you in this debt payoff journey?
I would have to say definitely kind of gamifying it and focusing on the big ones. You hear like, watch the latte. Who cares about the latte? The latte is not killing you. It's the bigger expenses. How can you optimize? Again, finding that balance of what you enjoy while, keeping those expenses reasonable. So my husband and I are foodies. We enjoy good food. And yes, we still go out. Actually, during the pandemic, we spent more eating out because we wanted to support local businesses. And
you're not
we're
alone.
Grateful. Yeah, we're grateful to be in that position, right? We're grateful to be now in a position where we can maybe spend more, still within reason. But then we found ways to improve our cooking skills at home, because when we eat out, we go all out. Apps to dessert. We want the experience. But then there were times we realized, we're going out, we're really not getting much out of this. So maybe we need to cut out certain types of like going out to lunch at those fast food places. It's not really giving us the joy or, the wins we feel like. Having friends over, and my husband smokes ribs, or he smokes duck, or, pork, whatever. Having them over, and we're having like 10 people over, and we're doing different styles. Hey, we just saw this, on online. It's like this Mediterranean herby kind of smoke flavor. We're gonna throw that on there. Like upping our cooking skills to the point, like, we want to be foodies, but we want to be frugal foodies. So so I'm not going to tell anybody like, okay, just eat bread and butter and you'll be fine, or, cut it to the bone. I'm saying find the joys, like the things you enjoy spending. And is there a way to be smarter about it? So we eat less meat, but we eat better cuts of meat. So ribeyes, when they're on sale, we grab them. So when we have friends over, they're getting ribeye versus, when we first started with the sirloin steaks or the fajita steaks and so forth. So looking at your three biggest expenses: housing, food, and transportation, and then making sure that where we're spending aligns with our values. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but I think that's made the biggest impact. And for every family, it's going to be different. So that's why I don't tell people, this is what you need to cut out. This is what you need. It's more like, here's what worked for us and why. How does that translate to you?
But it does help to hear you describe, listen, we enjoy food, we enjoy going out, but that doesn't mean we enjoy all food and all going out. Sometimes it is better to eat at home and have friends over. My goodness, Elle, are you my kind of frugal friend with your frugal foodie? I'd love it if you lived right down the road smoking ribs. I'm there.
We make
I'll
quite
bring
a few
the
friends
side.
there.
Yeah,
And we also homebrew from
believe
time to
that.
time. We've homebrewed time to time some beer. We love craft beer. Not sure what the scene is where you guys are at, but it's a big thing in Raleigh. So
Yeah.
that's what we love to do. And for one of my friends' wedding gifts years ago, I actually did mead, which is a honey wine. And it sounds like it'd be super sweet, but it's like a dry white wine. And I gave that as one of her wedding gifts. It was custom blend.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
And it's
Jill
not hard.
is-
Like
Jill
it's
is so
not hard. That's
excited.
the thing. It's
Jill wants
like,
to get married again and invite you.
Eric and I are
Anniversary
renewing our
gift.
vows.
I know. Send me your anniversary date, because I need about like 6 months to get it right. So
Oh, perfect.
if you want a beer, it's a month. So let me know.
I love that. And I love that you touched on values-based spending and how you discovered what 100% values-based spending, not just like this kind of fits with my values. Like you noticed, yes, we are foodies, and so we love going out to eat. But maybe going out to lunch, it's maybe like 50%. Fulfills at 50%. So we can get rid of that so that we can have more experiences that truly 100% fulfill the value, and that saves money. And I think that's something people often get caught up with in values-based spending. They're like, well, if I'm spending in my values, I'm going to be overspending every month. But you don't value as much stuff as you think you do.
Yeah.
So it's really like worth it to do the hard task of figuring out, okay, and dissecting your expenses. Like what in this is really fulfilling one of my core values, one of my greatest pleasures, and what about it is not, and how can I get everything I want in this expense and not any of the things that I don't care as much about.
Yeah. And that kind of reminds me, that's one of the things I love about money challenges, is that you experiment, because you're not going to know until you test certain things out. Like, do I miss this? Or is this something I can't live without? Like the no spend challenge is really helpful, because then you realize, well, I really like the social part of eating out. So maybe I can have friends over, and I love good food. It could be sushi, it could be Brazilian barbecue, whatever you like. And so experimenting with different challenges, and not all of them are going to work. Or you might do a challenge for 2 weeks and you're like, yeah, I realize this is way too important for me to give up. But then you get a value out of that because then you know this is where I do want to redirect my money. And you can use that as motivation. Like once I'm debt free, look how much money can go towards this.
And
Absolutely.
it can build a skill for
Yeah.
you. You've, like you said, you gained more cooking skills. For others, it might happen in another area as you get creative, but you still honor your values. So, so much good stuff in this.
Oh, thank you.
We love challenges. We're borderline obsessed. So, Elle, all right, let's get real in this last question. If you could go back and change anything about your debt payoff journey, what would it be, if anything?
I feel like I felt I had to go to the bone, like cut my expenses to the bone. And that's what I did with the credit cards. Like I did my side hustles and I cut my expenses. I also had the wedding, we were contributing towards the wedding. But you got to consider like the journey should be as good as the destination or that what you're going for. And understand that if you want something sustainable, it's better to have that buffer within. You don't want to burn out either, you're working too much. You don't want to mentally be sick and tired of cutting your expenses that you just quit and then you go overboard. You want to find a pace that matches you and be comfortable. It's going to shift. Like in a certain season of life, oh yeah, I can go hard on, working as much as I want to. But now that I have two kids, I'm looking for opportunities like within my business. What can I expand services? I'm not looking to, leave the house and spend time commuting and so forth, ignoring the pandemic, situation. This is what's important to me, which is at the end of the day, beyond the numbers, beyond paying off the debts, it's building a habit so that your life revolves around the people and projects that you love, because it's about the time, not about the money.
So many quotable quotes. The journey should be just as good as the
Oh,
destination. Find
It's
the
so
pace
true.
that works for you. Absolutely. Yeah, because we're talking about your debt payoff story that was, it sounds as though pre-children. And absolutely, that's going to shift. If you're still in the midst of debt payoff while having kids or you're starting it with kids, it looks different.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna make different choices, and we appreciate that. Like we love that we're at a point. The motivation to pay off debt is I I can build a business from home. My husband is a software engineer. He actually likes working with an office. I know, like in the internet, people are like, "Oh no, you can need to be avoid the 9 to 5." He loves it because he just wants to program. He doesn't want to be, managing and wearing the different hats you do as an entrepreneur, but he gets to work from home doing that. So, you get this leverage, you get these options, and then you can put the pieces in place however you want to for your family or, if it's just you, just, your life.
Hmm.
You know what else puts all the pieces into place every single week?
Every single week. It is the building block of my life. It is the cornerstone.
The
The
bill
bill
of
of
the
the
week.
week. Elle. Every week, we invite a listener or our guest of honor to share with us their bill. And we would love to hear yours now.
Okay. Okay. So this kind of connects to what we've been talking about, like the options that open up after you pay off debt. I checked this month and, with our bills, our electric bills, they'll tell you compared to last year how much it was. And it was lowered dramatically. So let me tell you the story. I know, Jen, you're in Florida. So
Oh, yeah,
you
we both
understand.
are.
Okay. You guys understand like hot, like air conditioning here is necessary. Like it is going to
Uh-huh.
be past 100 with the heat index. So every summer, we have an older house. It just would be, and I did all the tricks, insulated everything, and the bill would be so high. Well, living off that one income, and then with the pandemic, stay at home, and then the tax benefits, we went ahead and replaced like half the windows in our house. Like
Ooh.
it's a 60-year-old house. I mean, it's really cute. I love it. A little mid-century style. But like those windows just were falling apart. Our bill went down like $75 compared to last year in 1 month just with that. So it's great. Like having the habit of paying off debt morphed into having a habit of saving. And so when there's opportunities that come up, whether it's, a tax credit or just the fact that you're saving, there was a deal with window. And of course, you also know how to like do research. That's one of the skills when you do, debt payoff, you research and you call and you get estimates. I'm really happy with this. And it's better for the environment too.
Mm-hmm.
Such a good long-term thing, just insulation. And no matter which way you look at it, for bugs not getting into your home, for
Bonus.
cooling, for heating, because I imagine there are some months where you would use some heat. So yeah, just for so many reasons. And it's an
Yes.
upgrade to your home now that is going to bring more value to it.
Yeah. And 75 might not seem like a lot, but if you think about 6 months of the year, the winter and the summer, that is hundreds of dollars of savings, which we might use for vacation, or might decide I'm going to brew something different. Like you have
For
so
that
many different
backyard
options
ribs.
with that. Yes,
Go
upgrade
with
the
the
backyard.
fancy. Yeah. That's so funny. We also got new windows last year. And yeah, we did Travis did all of the calling all of the window companies
Yep.
in the county and brought all of them over at different times. And literally they would always ask without fail. And I was actually super surprised and impressed and took notes. They would ask, what did the last person quote you? And he would say, and they would quote under literally every single time. And I was like, just keep having them over. Come on. Like we could do this 20, 30 times. And so we went to this with the second lowest. So not the lowest, but the second lowest.
Yeah. Because you got to ask around, because sometimes the person that's the lowest doesn't understand, like there's certain things that may be different about your house. Like we have an older house, so the materials are different. We had wood windows, which were beautiful, but they were rotting on the outside. We discovered, so getting someone who's knowledgeable. Yeah. But like, that is a fantastic tip. If you have your own house, just call at minimum 3.
Everyone
always amazes me. It always, like how different it could be when we finished our basement to become an office space. I'm talking about there's a difference of $8,000 for the estimates.
Oh
or
yeah,
what
we
they
got
can and
half
can't do.
from the very first quote we got it down to almost half of that. So take the time, it's worth it. And that was that's a tip everyone can use. That's a tip and a bill.
I promise you that will save more than the latte.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love a latte.
But here's the second tip of the week, and Jill is to thank for this one. I ordered a cappuccino yesterday, which is cheaper than a latte. So I'm calling this financial freedom and financial intelligence is going to now, in my mind, be referred to as the cappuccino factor.
Oh, I love
Just
that.
a little bit less than
It's just a little bit less.
You got to brand that. You got to put it on a t-shirt.
David Bach would be totally fine with that, I think.
The cappuccino is a little bit less milk, but it's basically a latte.
It's a hot cup of milk, yeah. So if you want to submit your bill of the week, visit frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill, whether it is your cappuccino factor or your latte factor. We want to hear about it.
And now it's time for the lightning round.
I'm always nervous.
We just have to
I
entertain.
love doing this with guests. It's the best. So
it always starts out like, relatively professional, and then we just end by yelling at you, and it's all good.
Well, that's how
eased
relationships
into
go.
this. I feel like I'm with friends, By the end of it, it's like, I get this.
Yeah,
There you
you
go.
don't
We've
start
eased
out weird,
you
you
in.
develop into weird. And that
We
is
found
how
a good
it
pace,
goes.
and the journey was as good as the destination.
Yes.
I hope.
Yes.
So for today's round robin lightning round, we are each going to go around and say kind of one income increasing thing that we did to pay off debt. Maybe it was the most impactful. Maybe it had, most money, or maybe it was the most fun. But yeah, an idea that somebody else who's paying off debt now might want to think about trying. So Elle, we always allow our guests to go first.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel special. So kind of what I mentioned with the amphitheater, like sometimes seasonal jobs, especially in the summer, spring, look, if not an amphitheater, your city, like what social activities do they have? Downtowns, they have a lot of festivals here in Raleigh. What organization, Parks and Rec, that you can do as a side hustle that kind of allows you to enjoy what makes your community special, and at the same time get paid. I feel like working with the amphitheater, I got tips and it was fantastic. If you're looking for a really good paying one, and they do it not just every 10 years, is the census. Like,
yes, that one just happened, but I did that
but in
once.
between, we did that too. Again, like side hustles for purpose. When we bought our first house, we had to buy the fridge and a couple other items, and I was like, no, I'm gonna hustle that.
No,
how can we? I was like,
hustle.
I know. I'm like, we move in January. I'm going to earn it. And it was like the fall. And it gave me motivation. So I think being creative and looking for seasonal work where you can kind of blast at it, enjoy it, and then you're done can be a huge one.
I love that idea. People don't think about seasonal work a lot, but it's great. They just don't want to get a side job because it's so consistent. But seasonal is amazing. Yeah. And it often pays more because it's not sustainable. So not as many people want the seasonal jobs.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes some of them were paying like 20 an hour, back in the day. Whereas if you get like a retail job, it was, 8 an hour. So boom, big wins, goes towards your goals. It's a double win for me.
Love that. Jill?
Well, I love the high impact things. You know me, I am a little bit obsessed with lions and lionesses, and to learn that they sleep most of the time is really freeing to me, but then really high impact 4 hours. And so for me, I don't have a ton of like, here's the little tips that I did, because I really was like, where's the big expenses? And housing was that, especially in the area that we used to live in the Northeast. And so we did a lot of different things for housing. I know our longtime listeners have heard this before, and nothing's changed for me. You're going to keep hearing the same thing over and over again, but we house sat. So we didn't actually pay for our living expenses. We house sat in a log cabin for people who needed to go away for 2 years for work to Ireland, but they didn't want to sell their house, and they also didn't want to rent it out because they wanted to be able to come home on their vacation. So that we just paid the electric bill there. We also lived in a tiny home, so that saved us a ton of money. I got my master's degree, so that increased my earning potential while we also cash flowed it because of the low housing expenses. We lived with my grandmother for a time. Now, that was to care for her, but it did have the peripheral impact on our finances of not needing to pay to live somewhere because we were caring for her while we were living there. So those high impact things, sleep 20 hours, work for 4.
And your work was actually just sitting at a house you were house sitting. But that was a cool house.
The log cabin. You got to see most of the houses we've lived in, but it was a log cabin in the woods. I mean, it was stunning. It was awesome.
That was nice.
Yeah.
So for us, some of these, I think our most impactful ones actually happened after we finished up paying off debt. So I would say Airbnb, our guest room, Airbnb-ing our guest room was the easiest money that we made. And it was fun to have strangers in our house and like get to see people from all over. And they were just a different type of people, somebody who's willing to sleep in a house with other people. They're just there to get the cheapest room. They're not there to hang out at the house. But they're also fun people that are just down to travel in whatever way they can. So they were all really cool people. And we were able to make quite a bit of money we used it to pay for an RV. No, we used it to pay for my car. We bought my car in cash. And I started a t-shirt business that we used to pay for an RV that was supposed to be another income producing project that did not work. Not everything works. And that's okay. Learning experiences. But I would say the Airbnb, if you can do it, if you live in an area that's Airbnb-able, then definitely that's what the company was designed for, is to share your home with other people. And so I really would love to see more people like bringing that feel back to Airbnb and making money because of it.
Yeah, I got to get my husband on that. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, we have a like it's a 900 square foot basement and has its own entrance with the carport and its own, bathroom and setup. Just got to finish up some things. But you remind me, like, we love doing Airbnbs. We went to Asheville this summer. It was like the perfect Airbnb spot. It was a single mom with the little girl, and she had this like basement apartment. She's an interior designer. So I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was taking pictures and notes. Like, how does she partition this? Like, it really flowed well. And it was within 2 minutes of some fantastic food places downtown Asheville. And it was a great deal. I mean, it wasn't the cheapest, but it had everything we need plus laundry. And when you have kids,
oh my gosh, yeah,
that's a consideration. And a yard, that's another reason. When you have kids on vacation, they need a place to run. So you can actually lay down and rest.
And when you stay with somebody who's a local, you have a live-in guide to tell you what to do there. There's just so many positives. So absolutely. The money is just one of them. Well, thank you so much, Elle, for like hanging out with us and sharing your wisdom. Where can people get more from you in your awesome voice on your podcast?
Well, thank you. I started off with couple money. So if you're looking specifically for marriage and money tips, that is couplemoney.com. But then also about enjoying the journey to financial freedom and the destination, Simplify and Enjoy, which is also the podcast I have now.
I think all of our listeners would really enjoy Simplify and Enjoy. It's very similar themes to Frugal Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did note her voice, Elle, your voice on Simplify and Enjoy. I mean, even now too, but it's just a really nice listen too.
Oh, really thank you. Don't laugh. I started it, like I mentioned, I just had a baby. And so I would record during her nap time. And so then that became a thing. And my friends who discovered when I published my book, I kind of disouted myself. And they're like, you sound really calm. You're not like that. I'm like, I am calm. I have my calm moments.
They're just all on my podcast.
And I can't get out now.
Because I have to be quiet when she's napping.
And now it's like that vibe. And I feel like when I tried to be excited, and I tried that last year with video, and I was like, I can't do it. It's not that.
Oh my gosh. That's yes, nice. What is your book, and where can people find your book?
Oh, it's Jumpstart Your Marriage and Your Money. And you can find it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, IndieBound, I believe, as well. And it's basically 4 weeks to kind of reset your relationship and your finances so that both of you are happy with where you're going with your money.
Awesome. And we will have links to all of those in the show notes. Again, thanks so much for hanging out with us, Elle, and we'll see you later.
Well, this is a blast. Thank you.
Thanks, Elle.